Okay, hello and welcome to Charlie's Desk. Um, Today is going to be a little bit different. I'm just going to read from a little bit of the academic work I'm doing. So I'm using my reader stand today on my desk. So the reader stand is holding my phone parallel above a clipboard-sized um, piece of wood, and then there's a little fence that I put, a little thin piece of wood, so um, when I align the piece of paper, uh, if I use an OCR app, it'll just read it. But that's a little thing I came up with one of my clients. But I'll read the introduction. So this is what I'm working on. It's called Dialectic Approaches to Orientation and Mobility. Okay, introduction. The heart of a dialectical method of instruction is the discourse between two individuals holding differing views who wish to establish truth by the process of reasoned argument. In orientation and mobility instruction, supporting the kind of discourse where the learner's experience is central to the establishment of that truth, of what safe travel is going to look like for them, their unique self, is likely to have more positive and lasting results than a wholly didactic approach. Adjusting to travel without vision and obtaining the skills to travel in myriad environments is a challenging process which requires effort and concentration. There are methods that are easy to describe objectively: the protective positioning of the arms and hands, the techniques of the long cane. There is the conceptual knowledge used for orientation, the 5-point travel system, spatial and directional language, and yet there are aspects of orientation and mobility that are less tangible, more difficult to objectively describe. What are the characteristics that separate more successful travelers from less successful ones? Is it solely a matter of technique? What is the cause or set of causes for a good traveler having a bad day? And what traits enable some to manage stress more effectively? Identifying these characteristics, causes, and traits must be important to support safe and independent travel, but they are tricky to articulate and even seem to be different for different people. Facilitating the growth in the confidence of travelers who do not rely on their vision may require teachers to realize that it is not a matter of personal characteristics, causes, or traits. It's a matter of skills, and these are the skills that enable some persons to use techniques more effectively than others. These skills will be the subject in discussion here. The following pages describe a way to teach the skills that come before the techniques are taught. I do not mean this in a temporal sense, but a developmental one. These are the skills that enable the learner to use the techniques more effectively. Many times, a traveler will have learned all the techniques and is still less successful than they had wished or anticipated. In this case, this curriculum is taught to empower the traveler to monitor themselves and continue their skill remediation outside of instructional time because they have cultivated the awareness, sharpened their tools enough to determine their technique is true on their own. Some individuals may enter orientation and mobility training with many of these skills or none. What is described is not unfamiliar, but the framework and structure are specifically interconnected. It is a curriculum that applies a support-oriented, cognitive-based, and collaborative approach to the problems of orientation and mobility. It focuses on skills to equip persons to develop their sensory awareness, manage their emotions, understand their thought processes, and communicate effectively while engaging in the rewarding work of moving through the world without sight. So that's the introduction to my academic work, and it's the curriculum I wrote so I could teach during this time. It's all remote. I mean, dialectic dialogue, right? This is how to really do effective teaching in orientation and mobility remotely. And there's 4 cores to it. Not 4 cores. There's 4 sort of parts. There's mindfulness, distress tolerance, interpersonal skills, and then there's a specific problem solving and analysis unit. It's taken from a lot of different sources, but one source that it draws heavily on is dialectical behavioral therapy, which was authored by Marcia Linehan. But the reason why I started incorporating these ideas into my orientation and mobility instruction is because I saw a lot of individuals really struggling with the thoughts and emotions that came up during travel, so much stress. And my theory is that when you are that stressed, it's hard to pay attention to the sensory information that you need to as a non-visual traveler. But there's a lot more to talk about. So that's the introduction, and I'm gonna keep posting on this playlist about sort of these dialectic approaches to orientation and mobility. Thank you. Bye.